Last week, I was given the opportunity for an exclusive interview with ArcRaider's design director Virgil Watkins in the lead up to the game's launch tomorrow, October 30. In the 15 minutes or so that we had to chat, we covered a wide range of topics, including his thoughts about how those of us who are interested in ArcRaider's lore can best uncover the Rust Belt's hidden history, as well as what his favourite weapon is. Let's see what he had to say. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, just know that I'm a member of Embark Studios' creator program. They don't sponsor this video, but I've tagged this video as a promotion to keep that relationship transparent. Let's jump right into the interview.
Hey Virgil, how are you doing?
Hi, how you doing? Since we are short on time, if after you want to message me any questions or anything, feel free.
Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me about ArcRaiders.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I guess to get us started, could you just walk us through your journey in the gaming industry and how that led you to Embark Studios, and I guess what your day-to-day activities as a design director for ArcRaiders are?
Okay. Yeah, my journey through or into the gaming industry has been very strange. I started out modding games when I was a kid, so things like Half-Life and Morrowind back then, and then I kept it as a side hobby for a while, but then really didn't do anything with it, and kind of got into the industry by accident,
Right.
by way of discovering DayZ mod inside of an EVE Online forum link for a specific alliance. And then through that, I made some connections and ended up in London for a couple of years working at a company as my first job, and then made it down to actually your neck of the woods in New Zealand for 6 years after that. And then bounced up here to Sweden to join Embark.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a bit all over the place for me.
Okay.
And then day to day, now as a director, it's a lot of meetings, but thankfully I still get the occasional opportunity to jump into the engine and tweak things or do some level work, which I still enjoy a lot. But
Right.
yeah, it's a lot of discussion and alignment and discussing new features and how to tweak features and things like that. So
Okay. A lot of higher level stuff then, I guess.
yeah, very much so.
Yeah. Okay. Looking back, ArcRaiders has had quite a development journey, including a major shift, obviously, in genre at the end of 2022. So beyond that shift, if we just think about the game's inception, did the initial concept for ArcRaiders come from an idea from a single person, or was it sort of a collaborative, more iterative process?
I mean, so it was slightly before my time. I joined about 2 years into the project, so I'm going to cite my understood history to you, which I don't think it was from any one person. Early on, the studio was very much like all hands have a say in like what's going on, so it was highly collaborative in terms of the world being built this way and the mechanics being built this way and whatever else. So early on, it was, I think, my impression, certainly from when I joined, it was much more of just a soup where everyone was adding their ingredients and then kind of seeing if it tasted good.
Right.
Which, for better or worse, led us to where we ended up pivoting the game. And so we kept the ingredients, I think, that worked out, and then had to tweak the recipe a little till we got to what we have today.
Right. Sounds like one of those master sauces that restaurants have that they want to keep going year after year.
Yeah.
Well, the world of ArcRaiders, I guess the Rust Belt feels pretty distinctly sort of gritty, and but at the same time has a sort of beauty about it. What would be the creative influences from film or literature, art, or even other games that the team have drawn on, sort of to define that aesthetic and mood for the game?
Well, I think certainly what one of the strong elements is the sort of like retro futurism or whatever kind of label people are putting onto it. But a lot of the inspiration came from sort of existing sci-fi dystopian things, but attempting to put this like more approachable, charming aesthetic on top. It'd be much more for like our art director and concept guys to answer the direct inspirations for it. But in terms of like the tone and things, we looked at contemporary science fiction. So like obviously there's a lot of parallels you could draw to Oblivion, which is like a sci-fi film that came out, I think, like 8 years ago, and not really in terms of the aesthetic, but kind of like the tone it offers and sort of that contrast between that sort of dystopian but finding those sort of moments of beauty and things, and that's kind of what we look for in the way we portray things. And yeah, I think that's really just where we're trying to follow through on that, because it could be a very crushing, oppressive atmosphere, and that's really just what we wanted to step back from and try to have it feel more inviting moment to moment.
Yeah, and that movie certainly dips into both of those sorts of things as well. Well, anyway, following from Tech Test 2, you guys must have been pretty happy, and with the huge interest that the game saw, what do you think were the key things that kind of excited so many players, not all at once, but in a obvious move in one go?
Yeah, I honestly, it's a little hard to say. I think I've said before, and we didn't really expect that level of reaction to it. But I think that was the first time we had enough of the intended gameplay elements come together to make the whole experience. I can't recall if you had been in many of the much earlier tests, but certainly back then, we had maybe kind of the core game loop of shooting and running and stuff in place, but there was a meta game, and then early versions of the meta game came in and it was okay, but the progression was shallow and there wasn't, it was kind of one track. So TT2 was the first time we kind of had the breadth of the systems in, and then they were deep enough to actually meaningfully engage with them over the course of that test. So I think a lot of the work between Tech Test 1 and Tech Test 2 was looking at the deficient areas and building those up to cover more of the player base for where their interests might lie, instead of it being, say, really nailing it for people who just like the moment-to-moment shooting gameplay, but the rest are left without kind of much to sink their teeth into. So, yeah.
Okay, and sort of to focus more on the extraction shooter aspect, obviously gear inflation is a problem that all extraction shooters face in some way, and you guys have come up with a pretty unique solution by having the voluntary progress resets known as expeditions, which are part of the segment of the game known as projects. Well, what do you hope that players gain from committing to an expedition, and what do you think makes the reward of a voluntary reset worth doing it?
Yeah, I mean, it is, I won't say a gamble per se, but I hope that we've struck the right balance in motivations here. So players who are already genre familiar and understand what the progress resets afford you is in terms of your experience with that. I get to start from scratch. I experience the game fresh. I get to do those things again. Hopefully that's kind of a self-motivation in that regard. But then on the other side, we've of course tried to incentivize it. So this is where I think we'll have to see how it goes in live. So we're trying to reward people who are cosmetically oriented or bragging rights oriented. I've done this, it was a hard accomplishment, here's the thing I can wear to show it off, or here's the little pip I get on my name, or whatever we settle on for that. And then we've got the other things that are kind of mentioned in the blog post we put out about it, which are some benefits to your account, and that's sort of some progression acceleration, smooths off a few of the rough edges for players who are already they just know the game and don't really need to step through kind of some of those earlier loops again. But as stated as well in that post, is we're being incredibly careful to not confer this into a direct advantage over other players. So I think that's probably where we're going to need to monitor very closely in terms of are we correctly motivating enough players to do this? If not, then what do we do to adjust it, or what do we add or change or tweak? And certainly I feel very good about this system, but I'm not going to be unrealistic in saying that it's going to solve everything. So we just really have to see how it goes and adjust if we have to.
I think certainly a lot of us are pretty excited about where it might go to. Do you perceive any potential issues that might arise if there are just a group of players who are we just aren't going to do it because we want to keep our massive stash of gear?
I don't know if there's issues per se. The way the game is balanced in total, of course, if you're sitting on an entire inventory of the best weapons, the best shields, everything, you're going to be able to more consistently field that gear. But in terms of how we try to put players together, the things they're queuing up for, and the way just the weapons and shields and everything else are balanced relative to each other, you are of course going to have an advantage, and probably an economic advantage. But ideally it's the case that a player who's, say, on even skill footing, they should still stand a pretty good chance against each other. in the scenarios we've got. But again, same answer. We'll have to just keep an eye on how it pans out and then tweak as we go. But I feel pretty good about the way things are stacked right now. Certainly with the last couple tests we've gotten through, which we have loads and loads of telemetry on. So
cool.
Hopefully we're being guided by good data.
Yeah, and hopefully the community might get behind the idea of taking the whole thing down a path with good feedback as well. Now, during TwitchCon San Diego, you talked about Embark's view that Arc Raiders can be a 10-year game. I mean, obviously that sounds pretty ambitious, and I think it naturally raises the question about things like Raider decks, and which are the game's equivalent of a battle pass, I suppose, and other future content like maps and so on, and how they might be monetized a long way down the track. Can you tell us anything about Embark's view of monetization within a premium game and in that sort of time frame, a 10-year time frame?
From a design perspective, no, I wouldn't really be able to speak to that so much. I know that certainly my personal view is like be as equitable as possible, but eventually, the game does need to accrue revenue to keep running for that long. So
yeah,
I wouldn't be able to speak to it that far into the future, but for the time being, like the game is going to launch with a free Raider deck, and then as mentioned, we've got content sort of prepared for post-launch, but then we're going to share more information about that, I think, next week or the week after, for how that's going to go.
So it sounds to me like players should probably expect a mixture of things.
I think that's rational, but we'll see how we go.
Okay. Now, one of the things I'm super excited about is the lore within the game, and seeing a codex added to that, and tells me that we probably can expect a deep and slowly sort of unfolding story from the Rust Belt. Without giving away any particular secrets, is there any element of the game's lore that you're excited for us to dive into and uncover and sort of theorize about?
I'm kind of excited for players to be able to poke around the levels and see the little tidbits that are kind of around that they can put together and sort of extrapolate maybe what events occurred there. Because a lot of our levels obviously aren't lived in. They're kind of a snapshot in time of what that place was like when it was last occupied. So that alone can tell a little bit of a story. And then certainly as players move kind of through the map progression, you can put more of that together. So for me, I've always been a huge fan of like environmental storytelling and kind of more subtly delivering the premise to the player. So for me, that's I'm keen to see what people will pick out. And I know you've even put videos together in the past where you kind of extrapolate from, oh, that's placed there, and it's, well, but what was it for, and what's it doing? And so I always find that super compelling to see how people attach to that. And then we've tried to build up little bits around it. So like description on certain items or parts of quest lines and things kind of all start stitching it together. So
right.
I'll be keen to see how
the forensic scientists of the Rust Belt.
Precisely, yeah. So I think that's very interesting.
I think the game offers a sort of sandbox element that allows us to have that time for stopping and looking at things like that too.
Yep.
And I guess finally, you must consider yourself a fairly seasoned raider by now, having played the game a lot through its development. What would you describe your own personal play style to be? And if you had to choose one, what would be your current favorite weapon or gadget in the game?
I think for my playstyle, I wouldn't say it's pacifist. I will take fights if they come to me, but I don't definitely seek out. I don't chase down like the Raider flares, or I don't necessarily run toward gunfire. But if somebody wants to fight, I'll fight them, and then that can end up in some interesting situations, especially if you're kind of feeling out the moment and someone's not quite engaging you yet. And certainly with the VoIP, you get some fun interactions in those moments. In terms of weapon, I know people kind of rag on it, but I actually really like the Rattler. I think once you upgrade that and put some mods on it, people might see or hear it and think like, "Oh, I'm going to take this guy," but you can punch pretty hard with that thing if you're careful with it. So I think that's it's kind of like an underdog loadout almost.
All right, I'm going to make it my mission to take that through to fully upgrade it as fast as I can to see if you're right.
No, upgrade it all the way and throw some good stocks and barrel mods on it. It's a pretty solid gun.
Okay, and
you still got to manage the reload, but
yeah, that's right, exactly. Do you prefer to play solo or squad up?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I think the game can feel very different, and I like both for different reasons. I think overall, in terms of if I want to feel super immersed and kind of have the atmosphere of the game, solo's kind of the way to go for that, where I can almost role play being a raider. So I am like creeping around and being very diligent about sounds and stuff. Whereas when you're with the squad, you kind of have that innate sense of security with them, so it tends to be a lot faster paced, and you're really just kind of going for it. But I do really like the vibe in solo. It's as close to feeling like a single player game in multiplayer that I can think of in the moment.
Yeah, and I think the game offers quite a wide sort of scope on that front. You know, like saying it's got that sandbox feel where solo actually feels quite different from squad. So
yeah, for sure.
Anyway, Virgil, I know you're short of time today and lots of other people to chat to, so thank you so much for answering my questions. It's been an absolute pleasure, and best of luck for Arc Raiders launch. It's been a long road for me as well to get here too. And you enjoy the rest of your day. Kia kaha.
Thank you,
Stay
sir.
strong.
Yeah, have a good one.
You too. See you later.
I hope you enjoyed that short exclusive interview with Virgil Watkins, Arc Raiders design director, and I'd like to thank Embark Studios for the opportunity to chat with him. I'm aiming to bring you more interviews like this one after the game launches. Thanks for watching this video to the end. A big thank you to the members of my channel for their ongoing support, especially my Black Tier members TJ and Thoronike17, and of course to Embark Studios for having me as a member of their creator program. Both are greatly appreciated. Do the usual YouTube business if you want to see more videos from me from now on. Come and join our Autopia Discord if you want to hang out with us or you just want to find others to squad up with in the game. There's a link in the description. Give a like or comment as you see fit and enjoy the rest of your day. Kia kaha. Stay strong.
Everybody knows the world ain't right. Down on your knees, get up and fight.